In this video, I'm going to run you through everything you need to know that happened in FP1 and FP2 in Imola. Very interesting with the chicanes and the curbs, as we spoke about in the live stream, of course. And we're going to talk to the intricacies of how to take the chicanes really well, which drivers were doing a good job and which drivers really struggled. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Martin. I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open formula drivers. Just as we kicked off the session, a couple of updates and first things that I saw about the track, which I wanted to call out. Really interesting. The curbs at turn 1, turn 2, sector 1, generally speaking, the Tamburello chicane and the Villeneuve chicane, really flat. Like, I see these curbs and they change year on year every time they get a bit of an update. Sometimes they're flatter, sometimes they're wider. You know, the track changes ever so slightly. And I see them this year and I just see grip for days. I see nice, flat, stable curbs which you can swallow up in the first two corners and the Villeneuve chicane. So I'm watching to see who are the drivers that are going to try to take this on and try to work them out, because I think there's durable competitive advantage there. That is, I think that there is a lot of lap time there as well. So that's the first thing I noticed with regards to the chicanes. Variante Alta in the middle, towards the end of the track, just before Ravazza, still a bit of a hairy chicane. You know, it's got big curbs. And so the drivers were using that one as well. So I'm surprised that they were using that and not so much in sector 1. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. But also the white line as well, worth mentioning, has been pushed back in places, allowing for a little bit more width, a little bit more space around the track. And I feel like with the intention of the flatter curbs in the first sector and the white line, you know, being pushed back and the track widened in a few places, I think the intention there is to get the cars going a little bit quicker, just to open up the track a little bit more, get it a bit quicker, and therefore really to try to help overtaking down the main pitch straight. So I think that's the main reason for it. Just as we do talk about the pitch straight, I wanted to call out to you guys and confirm, as we spoke about in the live stream yesterday, the main racing line runs down the even grid slots. It runs down grid slots 2, 4, 6, 8 down. So the pole sitter is at a heavy disadvantage. Let me bring that up on the screen in front of you now and show you guys what I'm talking about. So this is a shot of Lewis Hamilton heading down the pitch straight. You can see Lewis here, and this is where they come down pretty much there. So all this section of racetrack, therefore, gets a big tick. This is all green through this section of racetrack. Unfortunately, the pole sitter is sitting here. Yes, it's the defensive / inside line heading into turn 1, but it's not getting much love at all throughout the practice session here. As you can see as well, just from some of the sprint races, have a look at the rubber on the right-hand side that's, you know, being generated from the pole, and not so much on this side, suggesting that these guys are potentially getting a little bit better traction from that side of the grid. It looks like a big difference. It looks like this is significantly clean through here, and this is not getting a lot of love at all. So keep an eye out for that come Sunday race day, and whoever's on pole may be struggling to get away a little bit as a result of their side of the grid not being as clean as P2, P4, P6, and so on. I wanted to call out a few little areas around the track where there's a little bit of entry space available to be able to be used. Ollie Behrman was kind of creeping across there. If you see that Italian flag down the right-hand side, Behrman kind of just getting on the green, maybe towards the right, but a lot of drivers not even going this far. So the two opportunities where there was this to be exploited was down into Ravazza 1. As you can see, this is where Ollie is now. And like I say, he was one of the only ones going past the white line and trying to open up the entry to the corner so that he could carry more speed into the downhill Ravazza 1. So this was one of the opportunities. And the other opportunity that I saw to be able to do this as well was into Variante Alta chicane. As you can see here on the screen in front of you, this is Lewis Hamilton with plenty of space here. And I would like to see Lewis maybe another 10 centimeters across to the left, just to be able to carry and fire a little bit more speed into the first entry curb. So I wanted to call out those are the two areas / opportunities for opening up the corner that I could see around the track. I didn't really see any more than that. And the guy using the most, or at least trying to explore those, was Oliver Behrman. Let's talk about Variante Alta, the chicane in the middle of the track with the highest curbs. And a lot of people have been saying on my social media, the cars can't ride the curbs because they're too big and there's too much downforce and it upsets the balance and they're going to damage the floor. And these guys just don't know what they're talking about. Whenever it's chicanes and it's Formula One, there is competitive advantage in riding the curbs, and there's a way and a technique to be able to do that. And it's just the timing, right? The way the car's loaded up, which tire is unloaded, which one is loaded, the way you make the contact with the entry curb. Do you use the first one? Do you use the second? When do you go for throttle? When do you open the steering? As ever, it's always in the details. This is a beautiful example of Lando Norris taking the Variante Alta chicane perfectly. I'd be super happy with this. And those of you that came to the live stream yesterday, you would have seen that in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, in turn 2, I called out Lando, Charles, and Kimi Antonelli as taking that chicane well. And in that case, in that example, sorry, Piastri, George, Lewis, not really taking that chicane well. But anyway, not to say that correlation is necessarily going to hold true this weekend, but we see Lando Norris again doing a good job into the Variante Alta chicane. This is perfect. And look, these are the heaviest / biggest curbs that we have here. The Variante Alta with these orange ones that you can see here, this one here and this one here, they're quite big. So if a Formula One car can get up on these, I was waiting for the guys to really start to tackle the first sector a little bit better, but this is a good job by Lando Norris. Now, as the session unfolded and we started to get into the meat of it, I was starting to get frustrated that a lot of drivers weren't trying, just out of curiosity, to start to glance the first chicane and second chicane curbs. That is the Tamburello chicane and Villeneuve chicane curbs as well. Generally, you want to look at these in the track walk, of course. Get down on your stomach, have a look at them, feel them, go up and up close, look at them from a few different angles, talk to your engineer, see what you think. Like, you want to do a lot of that work on your track walk. But obviously in your first laps in FP1, try them gently, right? With the right technique. Just start hitting the ball, gently, keeping it in the court initially. And then, once it's cleaned up and you're a bit more comfortable and you're starting to get the right technique, come FP2, FP3, quali, you can start to hammer them a little bit more. But the drivers were not really showing that curiosity. Alex Albon, yes, I'm going to come on to him in a second. So with 21 minutes to go in the session, both McLaren drivers are top of FP1. And then Alex Albon pops up with a purple first sector. And I'm thinking, I knew it. I knew there was lap time in the first sector, that the drivers just aren't exploring at this point in the weekend. So then we see Alex Albon struggle in the second part of the chicane. And that's where everyone sort of, I think, got a little bit of fear and thought, oh, we don't want this. This looks too aggressive, and you can ride the curbs, but you can't ride them too much, because if you do, there's limitations and so on. So I'll bring up the video. I'll talk you through what's going on. But I wanted to highlight to you that with the right technique, Alex was onto something, and there is heaps of lap time available in the first Tamburello chicane in Imola. Let's bring up the video now. So here it is. Hopefully you can see it on the screen in front of you. I think the issue that Alex has here is twofold. Number one, he doesn't take as much of the first entry curb as I would have liked him to. So if I just go back for a second here, Alex is quite soft, quite passive in the first entry curb. And that's, for me, that's the most important one, this one here. I think he doesn't really get up on that curb enough sufficiently to make this one as straight as possible. So what's happened is a big armful of lock goes into that one, which is fine. He's trying to unload the inside front. That's fine. But it could have been straighter and a more comfortable experience. If I have to give priority to the entry curb in a chicane or the second subsequent curb in the chicane, I'm taking the entry curb each and every single time. So I think that was the first one. Now, the second reason why this wasn't such a compliant experience for Alex was I think he did go for the throttle and didn't quite open the steering wheel at this critical point that you can see in front of you here. And it just made the rest of the experience bumpy. So look, I commend him for giving it a go, for trying, but I just don't think it was quite executed the correct way. There'll be some slow-mos coming up here, so we'll have a look at them. And you can see the way the car takes the curb with the contact is perfect. At this point, Alex hasn't had to adjust his steering at all. If you just watch his hands and his gloves, the way the car takes the initial contact is fine. So at this point, it's all about opening the steering and getting out of the throttle, because you don't want to be touching the car in terms of throttle or brake or anything while it's riding that curb. You want to wait for the car to get off the curb, let it resettle, and then go for the throttle on the exit. I think Alex is going for the throttle here. You can see the rear start to come around, and that's where I think he's created a bit of momentum in the rear. Now you see him with 3 minutes to go in the session actually execute a clean second part of the Tamburello chicane. There he goes. Just goes over it, no problem at all. Again, though, I'd come down hard on Alex for missing the first part. Like, that's a complete miss of apex. And then you see how the rear is sliding now, and he's trying to make things happen in turn 2. He's actually, by accident, ended up taking the turn 2 chicane. But what I wanted to highlight to you guys, it was a pleasant experience across the turn 2 chicane. So he's done something more correct there. So I think that there's still a lot of scope and a lot of potential and a lot of possibility and a lot of lap time in this. If they can just set the car up properly for it, A, and then drive it with the correct technique, B. Like I say, the correct technique looks like favoring more the entry curb, opening the steering wheel on the exit, not touching the throttle whilst you're on the curb, and just waiting for everything to resettle before you go for the throttle again. Those are the things that you're looking for. Now, I wanted to show you guys as well another example. I thought Ollie Behrman was doing a good job of riding the curbs. I'll bring it up on the screen in front of you. I'll just go back for a sec. This is him through the Villeneuve chicane. The first part looks pretty comfortable. I don't see any issues here. Again, this is the entry curb, remember, so that was important. He goes for the entry curb in the Tamburello chicane, and everything looks pretty healthy as well. Here's the first entry curb in the Tamburello. This is a good amount, so I'd be happy with that. And you see the throttle comes on and then off. Now I think he's better positioned for this chicane, and that's why he didn't have as many dramas on the exit of that one. It's all downstream of the first one. So like I say, I'm pretty confident in what I'm saying here. I think it's possible. And I just think you see a good use of dynamic weight from Ollie Behrman here. The way it's unloaded and it connects in nicely, and the car resettles on the exit. And you can even see his throttle, the way he's putting it down. He waits until the car's all 4 wheels on the ground before he goes for the throttle again. Good technique by Ollie Behrman, and we called him out before for using available track width on the entry as well. So just keep an eye out for Ollie as the weekend unfolds. There's another shot I grabbed here with a comparison between Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri at the Villeneuve chicane. This is beautiful from Oscar Piastri. He's got the unloaded inside front connected in with the first entry curb. Happy days. And it means he's got less work to do when he goes for the second part of the Villeneuve. And he's got options. You know, you only take the curb if you want to. If the car's settled, go for it. If you're flying and carrying a lot of speed, you can go around it. If you're going for traction, you can upshift on the exit. It gives you a lot more scope to be able to go through here. It also does less work and less damage to your front tires. See the steering lock that Carlos has to put in here compared to Oscar? Oscar's at that 45 degrees. Carlos is turning in quite a lot, and that's a result of not introducing the car to the chicane and just turning in a little bit later. So he's missed, I feel like, the apex here, even though it looks like he's hit the apex. I think Oscar did a much better job here getting up on that curb and then giving him options later on. Carlos with the more steering lock, wide, and it just means you've got also more work to do. So if you're doing that through the race, particularly in dirty air, that's going to swallow your front tires. So good job, Oscar Piastri here. I like what I see. This is good technique here. Let's talk about Max Verstappen, because he had a difficult session. So he didn't do too many laps in the first instance, and then he came in and made a bunch of changes to the front of the car. I think it was front ride height and front suspension. Not sure which way he went, but given that we've been talking about chicanes and the front end and the entry, presumably he went maybe a little bit higher with the front just to give a bit more clearance across the curbs. Presumably he went a little bit softer as well. But then it was interesting because he was making all these changes in the front, presumably to help with the ride and compliance of the car. But then he's struggling with the rear throughout the whole session as well. There was a point at which he came through Ravazza 2 and just lit up the rear and didn't get a nice run onto the straight. I'm not going to fully blame the car for that instance, because two things. Number one, he was trying to open his lap and the tires might not have been warm as he's just pedaling along Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2. So that's possible. Secondly, when you come through Ravazza 2 at speed, the car's got nice speed, nice downforce, and then you can go for the throttle on the exit. I think what Max should have done is, instead of opening his lap on the exit of Ravazza 2, open his lap on the entry to Ravazza 2. I'll bring up the whiteboard so that I can explain that to you guys a little bit better. But hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. So what Max did, if I just zoom in on the Ravazza section down here, what Max did is come through Ravazza 2 and then with the steering lock and the cold tires, go for the throttle on the exit of Ravazza 2. I think what Max should have done is attack the entry to Ravazza, lift, and then go, and then with that speed and downforce, enter from there. So I've drawn that in blue, but essentially I want Max to start to attack the lap from the entry to Ravazza 2 as opposed to the exit of Ravazza 2. I think he would have had an easier time. Now, we saw him shaking his head at the Tosa corner, which is up here. I didn't see what happened up here, whether it was entry instability, I'm not sure. I'll be interested to hear what Max has to say afterwards, but I think he's just been struggling with turn-in entry instability in the Red Bull in FP1. Another driver struggling with entry instability was Gabi Bortoleto. Actually crashed on the entry to Ravazza 2 just in the dying minutes. Look, obviously he's done something wrong per se, like there's always something that's happened. In this case, he's turned in too quickly with his hands and the rear's actually come around, swapped ends. You've got to remember there's a lot of weight in the rear of these cars. So if you do turn in a little bit too quickly, it's very easy for that weight to overtake the front of the car. Not to mention the big tires with the big width and big height. You can't slide them as much as you used to be able to slide them from 2005 to 2013 era. And so with a bit of quick steering, that can happen. I'm not going to blame Gabi for that one. Like, he didn't actually do much wrong. It looked like it turned into the corner and the rear just stepped out, but that can happen. And yeah, I think it's actually good for him at this stage that he's aware of the limits there, and it's only really cost him a front wing, and there was only 2 minutes to go in the session. I think that's actually valuable information for not much cost, to be able to say, oh, actually the limitation in Ravazza 2 is the rear. It's not the front, which means I can just turn in very gently, very progressively, and know that I'm not going to pick up understeer. The car will go through. I think that's helpful information, and I hope he takes it that way as helpful information and doesn't get too down on himself, because I don't think fundamentally he didn't do heaps wrong. Let's finish FP1 by having a look at the results and the top speeds. And the first thing that sticks out like a sore thumb is the first sector, the fastest one, held by Lewis Hamilton at a 24.195. You've got Verstappen 24.2, which is healthy, Albon 24.2, which is healthy, Leclerc 24.2, which is healthy as well. So these Ferraris look strong in the first sector. These guys are healthy as well in the first sector. Piastri, Sainz, Russell, and so on. I think that's all fine. But my call out here is, if Lewis Hamilton in P5, 24.1 in the first, like, there's heaps of time available to whoever can just get the first chicane and Villeneuve chicane absolutely perfect by taking all of the available curbs and keeping the car settled. I think there's 24.0s or 23.9s out there and available to whoever can do it. So that was interesting to see that pop up. And then we've got Piastri fastest in the middle and Carlos Sainz fastest in the final sector. So again, this tells me with Carlos up there, Lewis there, Gasly there, Verstappen struggling, even the stakes up there as well. This tells me that it's more of a driver's track than even what we thought it would be coming into this weekend. And I love this. Like, I love to see the drivers struggling. I love to come on this channel and give the insights and advice that I'm seeing, and hopefully it's helpful. I just love that it's back to the driving, and we're not seeing like rocket spaceships, just Noah's Ark, just 2x2 by 2x2. And we're watching drivers drive and Formula One be Formula One, and it's great. I think it's good. And that's what you expect at the end of a regulation set. Nice and close here all the way through. 16.5, 16.5, 16.5, 16.5, 16.6, 16.6. So the top six separated by 1.5 tenths. That's great. So I wanted to highlight to you that in this session, it was very much a driver's session. And like I say, I would, again, I just want to reiterate, I would encourage the drivers to just be exploring these curbs slowly and with the right technique in the first instance, to be able to clean them up, build the confidence, and just understand the intricacies, because that's all we've got here in Imola. You're going to have to work with them all weekend and try to understand them and set up the car for them. If you can do that, you'll unlock heaps of lap time. Now, as we headed into FP2, it was really refreshing to hear some words from Jack Villeneuve, just standing at the Variante Alta chicane, the one with the really high curbs. Now, think about everything I've been saying in terms of unloading the inside front tire, connecting that in with the first entry curb, maybe missing the second one as a priority as you go for traction, opening the steering wheel, direction change, Oliver Behrman doing well. Just keep all of that as your context and have a listen to Jack Villeneuve now, which I think was just really refreshing. And I'll get on to what I think about what he said just after we have a listen. Have a listen to him now.
There's Jack Villeneuve, trackside for us at turn 14. Over to you, Jack.
Yeah, Variante Alta, if you use names like we used to in the past. And it's an exciting place to be, because you really see the drivers at work, the aggressiveness, the precision in driving, and there's an art to going through these chicanes. You know, the old-fashioned kind of chicanes that were put in place to remove a straight line back in the day. There's curbs, and the way to take a curb is very specific. You want to be able to hit the curb when your inside wheel is slightly offloaded so you don't get a big jolt. And the drivers who manage to do that, they don't bounce up that much. That means that their tires stay on the ground, and they all avoid the second curb, because that's when you have to get on the power. You don't want the car to be bouncing there. So you need a car that is very, very directional, that changes direction quickly, that is precise. And that's how you can go quick through these corners. And you see which driver is super aggressive and trusts his car. And they manage to just go through these curves. I've seen some cars today, the Red Bull, was the front end was bouncing up a lot, very harsh. And some other cars, the Haas particularly, would go over the curb as if there was no curb. So either the setup of the car, the driver managing to just unload the front wheel a little bit when he hits that curb, manages to land in the second part of it, and then direction change and get on the gas. A lot of time can be made here, but so easy to make a mistake, because you carry a lot of speed and momentum into the corner, and sometimes the rear wants to come around just when you do the direction change, because you've been maybe going a little bit of understeer. You don't want to understeer in these kind of corners. You lose 2 or 3 tenths super easily. You also hear some drivers downshifting 1 gear more. That's to slow the car down, to put maybe a better front end, to make the car turn around. But the cars that are really well balanced don't need to go down that gear, and it's just super smooth. As I said before, when you see them go well, it's as if there wasn't a curb. Back at you.
So look, guys, I hope you could hear that and pick up on some of the insights that Jack said there. And actually, for me, it's really refreshing. Some of the things he said were unload the inside front, make contact with that curb. There's a lot of time to be gained here. The Hasses were going well, whether that's car or driver, he wasn't sure. But I feel like Jack was absolutely bang on. And the reason it's refreshing for me is because I come out on this channel and literally just tell you guys what I see. And sometimes I have to be honest, I feel like I'm on my own, not particularly on YouTube because you guys are pretty supportive, but on other forms of social media, people smash me like, what do you know about driving? How many world championships have you won? You know, have you driven before? All of this kind of things. And like to hear Jack literally echo my philosophy about 7 technical corners being, and this one focusing on chicanes, and how to attack them, how to unload the inside front, how to make contact, how much lap time is there, is really refreshing. I might reach out to him and send him an email, because to find common ground like that is rare. There aren't too many people that I know of who know, like, can explain how to drive a chicane in that way. It's actually impressive for me as well to listen to Jack, and I actually didn't know that he knew that. And I say that with respect, of course, because there are people driving around the circuit right now in FP2 who don't know that. So it's like, it's just sometimes in F1, you're so in the car, in the moment, in the track, that you don't have the scope to be able to look at it from the outside. So I take my hat off to Jack for that. And like I say, just given that I'm just speaking, like this whole channel is just built on me speaking through my eyes, and to hear that correlation there with Jack standing at the track, hopefully gives you guys a bit of trust as well into what I'm saying that makes sense and is true as well. And the reason I say it's refreshing is because I've heard some bad takes from Davidson lately. I heard some bad takes from Brundle lately. there's bad takes. Lando, bad, sometimes Bernie as well. I don't know. I just feel like there's some bad takes. So to hear Jack talk about that was great. Now, the other thing Jack said when Jack Doohan crashed in Suzuka was, yes, he left the DRS open, but and Jack's words, not mine, I quote him, he didn't massage the car into the corner. And I said the same thing. Like, Jack Doohan went from this to this very quickly with DRS open. And if he had have just massaged the car into the corner, he would have made it another 50 meters or something. So Jack Villeneuve earning my respect more and more each day. And like I say, I might reach out to him. I thought I'd share that with you guys as a very insightful piece and a supplementary supporting piece of evidence as well. I wanted to share with you guys just in the FP2 session, Max Verstappen through the second part of the Tamburello chicane as well. Just while we're talking about chicanes and curbs and so on, I'll bring it up on the screen for you guys now. But this being a compliant experience. So Max just gliding through the second part of chicane, no problems at all. Second curb here. So nothing like what we saw with the drama like Alex Albon. Now, a lot of people would have seen what happened with Alex Albon and say, oh, you can't do it. The cars can't do it. They can't do it. They're not compliant. They're too stiff. The floor, this, that. And here you see Max going through. Like, what's the dramas? Now, look, he's missed the first part there. I would like for Max to take a little bit more of the first part. Again, it makes this part easier, the second part, that is. But the fact that Max just cruises through here, no problem at all, because you can't see what's happening with the footwork. And that's lovely technique by Max Verstappen in the second part. Again, I want to reiterate, I think the first part, that's where you'll be paid the most. And so I would encourage Max to go for that a little bit more. It makes the second part easier. But nevertheless, the technique that he's doing in the second part is perfect. He unloads that tire beautifully. Look how stable the car glides over that curb. That's something that Alex Albon couldn't do. That's also something that in the second practice session, both the Ferrari drivers couldn't work out either. Hamilton and Leclerc both struggling in the Tamburello chicane as well. Now, Isaac Hadjar had a crash in this exact chicane with about 6 minutes left on the clock. As I understand, he was doing some long runs. Going through the chicane, he was on an older set of medium compound tires, and the tires start to overheat. They start to wear out. He starts to take some of this curb at the second part of the chicane and then goes for the throttle while he's just finishing off the corner, and it just catches him out. Again, a very small, not clumsy, but just very small, very innocent mistake, similar to Gabi Bortoleto's one. These are just slow speed offs where the rear grip level is catching both of the drivers out. So again, no hard criticism or blame there. That's very easily done with some heavy fuel, with some harder tires, with some unsettlement through the second part of the Tamburello chicane as well. So just as a way of getting around that, again, just with the right technique, you'd be surprised how straightforward it can be because you're not on the throttle until the car has settled. And that's the really important part of taking the chicanes as well. Again, I know we've spoken a lot about chicanes at the moment, but the 7 technical corners, chicanes, hairpins, S's, double apex, and then long corners of constant radius, increasing radius, and decreasing radius. They are technical corners for a reason. They're technical, they're challenging. There's a way, there's something you need to turn the key and unlock that corner. And with chicanes, I believe it's the first entry curb. Let's have a look at the FP2 results and top speeds together. So both McLarens on top again. Here we go, 23.7. So Piastri smashing everyone in the first sector. Again, highlighting my point, he's a 10.5 or 2/10 clear of everyone else in the first sector. So there's even more, there's more. There's a lot to come. But interesting to see the McLaren start to really flex. They've topped both the sessions. I'm just scanning through because I haven't looked at it in that much detail. Obviously, good job by Gasly. I think Verstappen was a bit more comfortable with this session. Russell seems to be the lead Mercedes, and this is a call out for me that I wasn't expecting this weekend. Kimi Antonelli's been great through chicanes every time I've seen him, and I think that's how he won himself the Miami pole for the sprint. Was a good job in the Miami chicane. It's surprising for me to see him down there. I'm not sure what's going on at this point with Kimi Antonelli and why he's not up there with George. He was I was expecting him to be at the sharp end, really taking it to these chicanes. It's his local track. I'm not sure what's going on there. Behrman doing a great job, obviously outshining Ocon. We spoke about Behrman in FP1. The Ferrari guys are struggling. Williams are still in there in the top 10. So all looks good. And obviously the call out for Gasly as well. Where's Colapinto, his teammate? We're going to need to talk to him just quickly as well. He is half a second off his teammate. And that's mostly in not sector 1. It is in sectors 2, mainly sector 2. So potentially Acqua Minerale, potentially Variante Alta as well. So we'll have a look at that. But Colapinto holding the card here for the highest top speed, 300 kilometers per hour, which is very healthy in the Alpine, help him race on Sunday as well. But generally the field spread for top speed, 295 to 300, they're all pretty much through there. I don't see too much of a story in terms of top speed to be able to show to you. Guys, I also don't think it's worth me bringing up telemetry. It's not a track where, you know, I can talk about minimum speeds or I can give you an indication on braking points. These corners, you just literally, you just feel them on the fly. Sometimes you brake a bit late, sometimes you brake a bit early, sometimes you use the gears in a different way. You're not always going to hit the curb exactly the same each lap as well. It's really something that you just have to, it's just dynamic. And so I think bringing up the telemetry would do a disservice. And that's where I think what Jack Villeneuve and I are saying about how to take chicanes, you'll get lost in the data, I think, on a track like this. I think this is not something that a race engineer can tell you. This is something that only a driver coach like myself or ex-driver like Jack Villeneuve will be able to highlight to you. So I don't think bringing up the telemetry is helpful. I think reviewing of the onboards with something like Jack is at the track. If I was any of the drivers like Antonelli and I was struggling, I'd be like, Jack, have a look at this, see what you think, and just have a look at the onboard. Because I think there'll be a lot more value there than talking to someone like Bono, for example, the race engineer. Not to say Bono's not a good engineer, he's a great engineer, but like we're talking about the core of driving elements. You know, it's a little bit more back to fundamentals than bringing up telemetry. So I just thought I'd make that point. Like I don't feel like there's value in me going over the telemetry at this point. So I'll say a quick few words in Spanish to help Franco and Argentina, because I feel like he could do with some good people around him and some good advice and good help, and then we'll wrap up. Hola a todos, ojalá que estés bien. Franco tenía una buena sesión, el coche está un pesado, no está roto, entonces en esta manera está feliz. En este vídeo yo estaba hablando sobre del chicanes y la manera que quieres hacer contacto con la primera pianito en la chicana y ir muy cerca de la segunda parte de la chicana. Entonces estaba hablando con el contacto, cómo hacer la chicana, los pianitos, los neumáticos y la interacción de los pianitos también. Entonces estoy hablando mucho de eso. Ojalá que puedas ver el vídeo en inglés y entender lo que estoy diciendo. Si tienes una pregunta o no entiendes en total lo que estoy diciendo, mándame unos comentarios debajo y te puedo ayudar en las comentas en serio, porque es más difícil para mí de hablar en español. Yo puedo escribir más bien. Entonces, yo creo que la llave y el secreto del circuito de Imola y los chicanes también es los pianitos. Entienden los pianitos, cómo usarlos, cómo manejarlos. Y en Imola aquí tenemos 3 o 4 chicanas, entonces creo que es la llave del circuito. Gracias por escucharme. También si tienes una pregunta, mándame en la comenta y me voy a respuestarte debajo. Gracias. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video helped you. If you learned something from it, please do me a favor. Please give the video a comment and like the video as well. And if you like this type of driving analysis, subscribe to this channel for more driving analysis moving forward. Thanks for watching again. See you in the next one.